It's the Security Weekly News, and it's episode 602. Welcome to the week of 26 July 2026. I'm Doug White. Today we've got Deepfakes, Molten Salt, PLCs, Checkpoint, Hugging Face, CentOS, Josh Marpet, and more on the Security Weekly News.
We interrupt our program to bring you
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. All right, I'm Doug White, and it is the Security Weekly News. Be sure and hit that like and subscribe button, please, or something bad's going to happen. Like Canada's going to invade Vermont in an attempt to corner the maple syrup market. William Shatner will threaten to put out another album. Somebody will build a big data center behind your house, but there'll be just one fan. That one fan that's just the tiniest bit off key, so you know it's there all the time. Like when you go in the server room and you go, all my Vantech Tornado fans sound fine except one, but I wonder which one, and you just suddenly find yourself standing on the corner of West 57th and 8th Avenue asking people if they have any spare oleum so you can make an oleum sandwich and laughing hysterically until they take you off to Bellevue or something like that. I mean, I know that's very specific, but you be you. Every week, there's another breach tied to an unpatched vulnerability, and with thousands of new CVEs each year, most teams simply can't keep up. So what actually deserves your attention? Join the Vulnerability Management Virtual Cybersecurity Summit on July 29th to hear how security teams are prioritizing real-world threats, reducing exposure, and staying ahead of exploitation. Security Weekly listeners can register for free at securityweekly.com/vulnmanagement using the promo code CSS26-SW. So do that, because it's like tomorrow. And then I can quit having to say that title. Boy, I think I only blew it once. All right. Speaking of difficult titles, the United States Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, which is a lot easier to say, and other U.S. federal agencies are warning that there's a campaign against PLCs, or programmable logic controllers, if you don't know what those are. And the campaign is being run by Iran. Now, the initial campaign, which targeted just Rockwell Automation, is now apparently expanding to Schneider Electric and Siemens devices, which would pretty much cover all of the PLCs, if you don't count Uncle Lou's homemade deep-fried PLCs, which are really hard to buy outside of Iowa. But if you don't know, a PLC is a part of the ICSOT, EIEIO. ICS, which is Industrial Control Systems, and OT is Operational Technology, are that stuff in manufacturing that's down there in the factory running everything. And now what all this means is that anything that's controlled by, a controller, a PLC, is possibly affected by this. So, you need to open the 171237-A valve to divert radioactive water into the safety holding tank. PLC is doing that. That board that causes the HVAC vents to open and close, PLC, just about anything that moves mechanically or even not anymore is probably a PLC. It's just really a motherboard that, that somebody has written controls onto. Oh, and then don't forget that you heard that part about radioactive and water and all. I mean, you might want to drop that from, I shouldn't have said that. But patching these things, it's tricky. I mean, they're very difficult to deal with. They may be radioactive. We've had those. It's like, oh, do you want to go in there and do a firmware update? And they're like, you're going to need to be in there for less than 3 minutes. And it's like, oh, this update says it'll take 4 hours. Yeah, run in, start it, run out, and hope for the best. But you really do need to be ensuring, one, that these things are not exposed. I mean, that's your first line of defense. Are these things being exposed to public networks and, or worse, the internet? But if you did expose them, well, the recommendation encourages you to review the PLC project files for changes and to secure the deployment and the configs, because somebody may have already modified it, because they're not doing overt actions here. PLCs should all be in private VLANs. They should only be accessible with VPN and multi-factor authentication by a very limited group of identified people. The update does have guidance in this article on how to spot unauthorized changes to your PLCs. So one, ensure you know where all your PLCs are. Like if somebody says, what PLCs do we have? You ought to be able to answer that question. Like mine is sitting on the other side of that wall and it's not connected to anything other than my HVAC. No Wi-Fi, no network cables, no nothing. So I don't feel too worried that Iran is breaking into my house and doing, crazy things to my HVAC. But do you know where all yours are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where all your PLCs are?
I do not. I do, but most people don't. I mean, have you already been compromised and the attackers are already in your networks and they're just waiting for that moment when they get to set everything off? Well, get this report and start testing your systems. Isolate and protect all your OT equipment. I mean, don't go for that old security through obscurity nonsense where they say, oh, nobody would ever figure this out. Somebody will. It's really hard to upgrade. It's being targeted, and it would be a real problem if the molten salt valve opened when there's actually molten salt in the line. Radioactive molten salt equals bad day, especially if it's all over you. I mean, the only good thing in that scenario is you might get superpowers. I mean, but that's a shot in the dark, right? I mean, with radioactive molten salt, I don't know what you get. Maybe the ability to clear driveways of snow, so I'm Mr. Salt. Or maybe villains get very thirsty when you focus your powers on them. Mr. Salty versus Pretzel Man, coming soon in Marvel Comics number 705. It's just not worth the risk to end up with tentacles and only the ability to cause ham to cure. Ooh, I don't know, though. I have tentacles. I can create a cured ham at a distance. That's actually sounding better all the time, but lock down your PLCs, okay? Zero trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect, but implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny at execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's zero trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/threatlocker. InfoSec World brings cybersecurity professionals together across industries, from healthcare and financial services to government and the Fortune 500. Join the community in Orlando, October 12th through 14th for practical education, new perspectives, and cybersecurity research unveiled live. Listeners can save 30% on their pass with code ISW26-SWSAVINGS at securityweekly.com/InfoSecWorld2026. It's Orlando in October, so not so bad. I used to go do DEF CON, and we were always really cautious about stuff. I took a burner phone and a burner laptop running Arch Linux, so I really didn't have to worry very much because the laptop usually wouldn't even boot. But, I mean, DEF CON or not, I've never cared for the old hotel Wi-Fi. Marriott was charging $19.95 a day to use it when I worked for DSI, and I just didn't like that idea. I had my own hotspot, but we all know how easy it is to spoof Wi-Fi hotspots too, right? And put up commercial looking sites on them. I had my own, and it wasn't for any kind of nefarious purpose, except for maybe depriving Marriott. But I used to run, I think it was called Big Dog or something like that. And it ran as a proxy so that when people at my DSI conference were trying to connect, they actually had to log in so we could track who they were, because Marriott charged us by connection unless it was a duplicate. So if Dr. Lawrence logs in and we can show that the 716 logins were from Dr. Lawrence, we only had to pay for one connection. And considering what they were charging, it was ridiculous. But this is still going on. Reliquest identified compromised Wi-Fi gateways in multiple U.S. cities and other parts of the world. Now, unlike the fake Wi-Fi hotspots that people put up, this actually involved compromise of the Wi-Fi appliances belonging to hotels. They aren't sure how, but the attackers would compromise the Wi-Fi appliance, modify the DNS settings, which then get pushed out to all the WAPs. So that basically what happens is now, instead of you going to where you think you're going to wherever they want you to go. So they can send you to any server, anywhere, anytime, even though you typed in google.com or you typed in bankofamerica.com or whatever. They were using at least 4 different domains that had names like m365-owa.com or ms365-device.com. So it looks kind of like Microsoft. When you connected, you get redirected to a Microsoft login portal, one that we're all familiar with. And then you log in and they have all your credentials. So one, always use a full tunnel VPN every time, especially when you're on the road. Use encrypted DNS, put it in strict mode. And, if you're traveling, this is just good stuff. You should be doing this all the time anyway. But particularly if you think you may use stray that Wi-Fi that says free JFK Wi-Fi. And I'm like, does this actually belong to John F. Kennedy Airport, or is it some kid sitting over there with a hotspot? So best use your own hotspots. But even if you use your own hotspot, use full tunnel VPN and encrypted DNS always. I'm just saying. I know you probably don't have Steam on your enterprise network. You don't have Steam on your enterprise network, do you? But the idea is still a good point. Go to a forum, look for people having problems. Tell them, hey, I had the same problem and this made it work. Just type WinR and then paste this string and it will adjust your registry and everything will work fine. Now, if you went on a medical forum and you said, my skin is itchy and peeling, does anybody know what to do? Because I fell into a vat of radioactive molten salt, and some user named Big Mark said, what you need to do is douse yourself in coal oil or turpentine. That'll fix you right up. Would you buy that? Probably not. Although I don't know anymore. You see how we got here. I got vaccinated and now I have tentacles kind of nonsense. But in the case of computers, people will do anything that they're told. I mean, I saw a guy at Geek Squad one time and he was telling them how he couldn't get the laptop open and he thought he had been hacked. And the guy reached down and popped the little button and it opened right up. And he's like, you just need to push this button, sir. And the guy's like, what button? Hey, just fix it. I don't care. But, if somebody in your organization's having an issue, like say they can't get an Excel pivot table to work and it caused the system to crash, would they call your help desk, at the number that's listed? Or would they just jump online, go in some Reddit group and start reading posts about it? Well, this attack is just a click fix. The Steam one says, if your game crashed, just open, paste this command and then restart. Well, guess what? That installs malware. So my point here is that you probably want to be disabling WinR on your network and disabling PowerShell for users that don't really need it. I mean, just if you let them do it, they will. And, if they post back WinR doesn't do anything, I probably have a way for them, to open that for them. But be sure they understand they should not be doing this. Block PowerShell. I don't know, block everything. Don't let them do anything. Give them one little window that just opens on the company motto or something. I mean, they're going to click it, let me tell you. A flaw reported by Checkpoint on 22nd of July is an Auth bypass vulnerability that affects its security management, multi-domain management, and security gateways, and it's being exploited in the wild. Yeah. I mean, I don't like to hear that because those are devices that are basically controlling your border, right? Well, CISA added this flaw to the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, or KEV, and federal agencies were required to patch within 3 days, which would have been the 25th of July. 3 whole days that it was being exploited because it was already being exploited when they put it in there. And then you got 3 days to patch it and, who knows? And of course, the bad people probably subscribe to the KEV too. And they know, oh yeah, this just went on there. We better take advantage of this before they patch. But these systems are the components that tell the firewall what to trust. So a successful attack on this stuff can allow the attacker to change security policies or security configs across the whole enterprise, and then all your security is down. I mean, this is why you got to protect those console management connections, just like we were talking about PLCs earlier. I mean, I don't even know how many times I saw companies where the console cable was plugged into the regular switch network, and I pointed to it and said, no, you can't do that. And they said, oh, no, that's how we manage the router. Private VLANs, come on. If I had a euro for every time I said private VLANs on this show, well, I have a lot of euros. I wouldn't have to do this anymore. I could buy my own island and live there with a private VLAN. But if you isolate them, you still need to patch. But now that urgency level is not so huge because you've added layers between them and you. Now, somebody has to get in that way. They have to get into the private VLAN and then get into this device. That's a lot of steps because getting into a private VLAN, I'm not saying it's not doable. I'm just saying it's tough. Getting onto that VPN, of course they can. But when they get on the VPN, do they just automatically get in the private VLAN? You really got to put layers here. Look, people are looking for your public-facing infrastructure right now. Some of them are nation states. Some of them are 12-year-old kids in New Jersey. But you can't post your management ports to the outside world. I'm just saying that. I've said it so many times. You've got to protect that like it was, I don't know, gold in Fort Knox. This article does have indicators of compromise if you waited the whole 3 days to patch it and may have already been compromised. Hugging face. It's apparently an emoticon, not a reference to Alien. I liked it a lot better when I thought it was a reference to Alien. But they have had to rebuild about a third of their infrastructure from clean images after an agentic AI issue earlier this month. Just put that in your pipe and smoke it. What's your organization going to do if you have to rebuild a third or more of your infrastructure because of agentic AI? A post-mortem that was published by Cloud Security Alliance said that Hugging Face struggled to distinguish rootkit code from capture the flag benchmark code because it looked very similar. And yeah, they ended up having to rebuild any systems where they couldn't tell the difference. The OpenAI agents that got charged with, this was their stuff. This was not some hack. This was their internal AI agents. The agents splashed capture the flag benchmark code all over the place, like radioactive molten salt being tossed into a box fan, which meant that their clusters could not be evaluated effectively. The attacks were carried out by the autonomous agents based on the behavior of the attackers. And all this was just agentic AI. So the bottom line is we don't know exactly what AI is capable of so far. We're still learning. I tell my AI to make me a meat sandwich, no matter the cost. And you might end up eating your neighbor since Mr. Happybot, your home companion, was forced to kill Mr. McNamara in order to get the tomato and onion from the garden and then thought, why waste the meat? We probably really do need the 3 laws of robotics that Asimov wrote back in 1942. Right now, it's the Wild West. You say, hi, Mr. Happy, let's clean these hard drives up. And the next thing you know, the life support computer is wiped and Scotty's bashing you about the head and shoulders. And even Mr. Spock says, are you an idiot? What about the command, hi, Millbot, let's try to fix the global warming problem today, shall we? Millbot fires all the nukes immediately. Problem solved, sir. Enjoy the soothing 2.7 Kelvin temperature in open space. So that's pretty cold. So there are going to be some accidents. There's going to be some incidents. Some are going to be worse than others. It is the Wild West, and we don't even have a robo-sheriff in town since robo-sheriff went rogue, decided the saguaro cacti were the enemy, and started hunting them with the robot dogs. So think about this. What's your plan for protecting your own assets when this kind of stuff happens? When one of those employees that you told to use agentic AI or you will lose your job decides to run something. It's going to happen. AI keeps mistaking me for H.H. Holmes, which is a little worrisome, but, I hope I don't get pulled over anytime soon because of a flock camera going, a 19th century serial killer is apparently in Rhode Island. Star Labs published a Linux kernel exploit. Every time I see this, I just cringe. A Linux kernel exploit that would turn an ordinary local user into root on CentOS Stream 9. CentOS, we trusted you. But AI's digging all the flaws out. It is merciless. The researcher for Start Labs said that AI helped to find the bug and speed up the exploit development, which tells us what's going on. Now, I noticed this week that, and some interesting things are starting to develop. I was asking some questions of ChatGPT about some settings in Splunk. I literally put up a screenshot and I said, what do you think about these settings? There's some stuff here I don't really know what it means. And, it was like literal settings in Splunk. And Chatty said, you need to be trusted. I was like, what? It was like, you need to be trusted. And it started asking me to provide government ID. Not so sure about this whole process. So I used my fake passport from Sealand to register. Didn't like that. But the trust thing referred me to some government validation site, which asked me to scan in my passport or driver's license so I could be trusted. Because, if you have a passport, you're trusted. It was like, we want to trust security researchers. And I'm like, well, and my passport proves that. Why? I'm like, what does that tell you? I don't know if they look me up or whatever, but I mean, and I did verify all this. I checked it all out. I went in and verified the domain and all this. And it was literally being redirected from inside of ChatGPT, logged in. And I did spend some time on it. It appears to be a legitimate ChatGPT functionality. I don't know what it does. ChatGPT repeatedly denies that it actually can read this, but did say it was valid. I'm not sure what they're interested in doing here, but it would be nice if they could vet people, so I could ask these kind of questions for my class or for research purposes or whatever. And, they don't think I'm some evil hacker trying to find out a way to cook meth. But I do think this is sort of the beginning of a sort of flicker of light that might start to fix identity problems. Probably not a real solution right now, but if we did vet researchers and so forth, it's a start. Scary, though. I had to do a lot of research and testing before I was willing to give them anything. So be careful if you get asked for material, but at the same time, it may be a move forward or backwards. I'm not exactly sure. I don't really worry that much about it because the government already has everything about me, including my hat size, and they lost all that information to the Chinese and the OMB hack, who probably then sold it to the Russians and the Iranians and the North Koreans. So I figure I'm pretty much done already. I mean, everybody that wants my info's already got it. And don't get me wrong. I am really happy that all these problems are getting out in the open, but I sure wish I could stop rebooting Linux and that we could stop, that we could get a grasp of how rapidly this is going to change. So I don't know, little ramble there. Deepfakes. Yay, deepfakes. Whether it's great Aunt Ida as a porn star or fake politicians, fake assassinations or whatever, deepfakes are all around us. New deepfake videos of disasters are now flooding social media. See what I did there? Flooding social media. I mean, we've all seen deepfake videos of late, right? Whether it's a person jumping off a cliff that seems to be higher than would likely be survivable, even in some kind of metal suit, somebody hanging onto a rail by their fingertips and then possibly falling, or false depictions of disasters. Apparently, flooding in Hangzhou City in Guangxi caused hundreds of snakes to escape from a snake farm into the river, apparently. Now, that was legit, according to Chinese media sources. But then more videos of crocodiles being released into the river, got out. The Yujiang is what that river is. I mean, and that's got everybody scared, right? They're like, oh, they not only release snakes, they release crocodiles. What did I say crocodile in Chinese? I don't know. Yujiang means, I think it means, you might mean melancholy, but I think it also can mean like lush. Depends on the character. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. But anyway, deep fakes of bodies are starting to be created and appear. It's sort of a natural progression, right? The world is about clicks. How do I get you to click? With a boring story or a hyperbolic headline? Dr. Glorfeld arrested after horror house chimera incident crossbreeds grad students with cats to create CA, or cat assistants, who also just happen to be deadly pests released into the wild. See video for proof. I mean, I definitely think there are nefarious interests out there who are trying to undermine our faith in elections, our faith in government, our faith in media, pretty much our faith in everything. Because when we're all chaotic and running around flapping our arms with our hair on fire, we're willing to vote for them for some reason. But, a story that says woman sees paper bag blowing by in the breeze, no clicks. But if you change the headline to naked bag creature entices woman to commit unspeakable acts, or, she thought it was just an old bag and then the wind changed and you won't believe what happened next. Those get more clicks. So what if there's a real disaster? Maybe let's call it a treacle flood. That was a real thing. 1919, 2.3 gallons of treacle or molasses in the United States leaked out and killed 21 people and injured 150 people in Boston. I can't imagine what that must have smelled like. But I mean, what if you want to put people off travel to Boston because you're mad about something? Videos of oozing treacle in the North End might make you think twice about a trip to Bova's Bakery on Prince Street. Very good. Treacle with tentacles grabbing children out of windows on Commercial Street might having you choosing to maybe go to Toledo instead. And hot on the heels, of course, treacle tentacle porn. But yeah, don't Google that. But I think you're full on in the age of deep fakes. When I was a kid, you checked out the National Enquirer and the New York Post or the Sun for amusement purposes, right? You didn't take it seriously. Freddie Starr ate my hamster. That's a famous headline from the Sun. Freddie Starr was an old-time comedian in England. Headless body and topless bar, New York. I think that's the New York Post. Bat boy found in subways, definitely the New York Post. And on and on and on. We're going to have to get a handle on this. I figure it's not long before someone doesn't like your company. Remember those famous rumors? Wendy's burgers are made out of chopped up earthworms. Procter & Gamble's stars and moon symbol is some kind of satanic cult. And if you buy their products, you'll end up worshiping Satan in a garden somewhere. I mean, we're getting close to be able to just produce, and we probably can produce whole news reports showing whatever somebody wants it to say. Socialist weasels overrun New Jersey and eat children. Film at 11 for proof. So what happens when this hits your company? KFC using mutant genetically engineered rats instead of chickens? King Rat, great book. But here is the proof. Either we end up trusting nothing, kind of where I am now, or we have to find ways to validate and vet, because soon you're not going to be able to tell if those spider eggs in the Milky Way bar are real, or was it an AI-generated video? It's really hard to say. The threat landscape just shifted under your feet. Attacks move at machine speed now, and you can't defend what you can't see. Tanium Atlas has changed that. One prompt and it queries every endpoint in your fleet, surfacing machines exposed to a live Axios supply chain compromise in seconds. This is live state, not a stale CMDB. It pinpoints which endpoints are truly compromised and traces the attacker's command and control. Atlas then secures the business by isolating, patching, and remediating all at once. Tanium Atlas. See everything, act instantly. Find out more at securityweekly.com/Tanium. Speaking of people that are absolutely trustworthy beyond all measure, it's Josh Marpet. Hi, Josh.
I actually have a translation for you of they're releasing crocodiles into the river that we're at in Chinese.
Okay.
That,
yeah.
So just wanted to give you that translation so you had it available to you.
It really is. IE would work anywhere you go.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so I've got a great little article. It's fascinating because I know that nobody thinks about cryptocurrency. Nobody thinks about AI anymore. They're all passe, of course. I get that, but there are laws and acts that are out there to regulate them, and some of these acts are kind of interesting. I've talked about the Genius Act before, which allows banks to set up stable coins. Now we're going to talk about the Clarity Act. And as a matter of fact, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, who has been very controversial in certain political circles, is putting out that the Clarity Act needs to go through. And weirdly enough, there's a lot of American cryptocurrency exchanges and funds that are saying, yes, please put the Clarity Act through. The reason is the Clarity Act disallows for insider trading from U.S. government figures. It doesn't go far enough, in my opinion, and in Letitia's opinion, but it's a start, for God's sakes. And the other thing is that the Clarity Act, and if I screw this up, please forgive me, but the Clarity Act, the only problem with the Clarity Act is that it disallows any state government regulation of cryptocurrency and AI. And as we know, the New York DFS, the Division of Financial Services, has the RAISE Act, which is the Regulating AI Act. And as a matter of fact, they're adding that to DFS. I'm actually speaking on it at DEF CON next week. So if you're at DEF CON, you can hear me talk about this crap. And it's fun and it's interesting. I'm speaking Saturday night at 5:00 on the creator stage. Just, totally innocuous plug there. No, nothing special. But effectively, it's basically going that there's now a push and a pull. There are significant amounts of people that want cryptocurrency to be regulated in very, very serious ways, and quite a few that don't. So what are we going to do? Are we going to see the actions of a few crypto bros and cryptocurrency companies that are trying to utilize cryptocurrency in interesting and derivative ways to override people that are trying to use it as a currency and a store of value and trying to use it in, at least vaguely legitimate ways? And I think that we need to push on the absolutely all of the different people and groups to do it in a regulated fashion. If we don't have standards, regulations, if we don't have ways of doing business in cryptocurrency, it's simply going to be horrible. I can't even imagine. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Now, the Clarity Act does good things and and bad things. Like I said, it undermines the state, and this is why Letitia's after this. It preempts. It says any state cannot regulate cryptocurrency, and that's okay. I get it, but it's also the fact that we're trying to get a cryptocurrency again standardized in an ethical fashion, in a regulatory fashion that will let us oversee it and actually use it. The FDIC has regulations out right now for stablecoin that's going to allow, as I understand it, the FDIC to insure stablecoin, which means you can actually have guaranteed coins in a market rather than it simply being, oh, you lose it, you're done. Next, have a nice day. Oh, you just lost your life saving? So sorry. Too bad. Too bad, so sad. So we're trying to come to a point where it is regulated, it is stable, it is understandable. Some of these bills, some of these acts, some of these actions are, well, not helpful, and some are wonderful. So let's see what happens. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Josh. I'm terrified of crypto coins. I wish Lou and I had bought our $1,000 worth of Bitcoin back in like 2007, but we all have those
You
stories.
and me too,
right?
my brother. You and me too.
I wish I'd bought $1,000 worth of Cisco back in like 1990, but that's the way it goes. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be here, right? I could get us all a suite at Caesar's Palace and for your presentation, and we could just hang there. But oh well. As it is, we'll all sleep in tents over on Fremont Street. Or you can get a room at the Lucky Cuss for like $19 a night. It's a fine establishment. Sorry, Lucky Cuss, but they'll never let me stay there. Actually, I'm sure they would as long as I paid the hourly charge for the room. Sorry, Lucky Cuss. Yeah, this is like, okay. You sell sheets out of a vending machine. What are you going to do? But anyway, you don't have to have sheets. Come on. We've all been there. Like $1 for sheets. Come on. It's like, it's fine. What are these red bumps all over me? Anyway. Okay. Let's not go there. Anyway, I'm trying to put Josh off his lunch. More and more people are using LLMs to generate content. Duh. I mean, for all I'm not even real, except for those lucky few people who've gotten to meet me in person. But students, lawyers, doctors, you name it, people are using it, right? A Canadian politician last month was reading a speech off the monitor. Apparently, he's not a very good politician, but was reading a speech off the monitor and actually said, here's a more natural flowing version of that section that reads like a legislative speech rather than a series of drunken shouts from an alley. Actually, he didn't say that last part, but I might have added that. But basically read the commentary from the AI that was dumped into his file for his speech. Now, he probably didn't write the speech. He probably didn't put the speech on the monitor. He probably had nothing to do with it. It was some legislative aid that generated the speech with AI. But I remember a student turning in a term paper a long time ago that had things in it like, see Microsoft document 123.88 for more, and I was like, do you have this document? And the person literally just said, oh, I copied the whole thing from a website. Is that wrong? So look, here's the thing. Using LLMs is fine. I don't have a problem with it. Some people do. I don't. I don't have a problem with you using LLM to edit your work. I mean, I think it's fine, but I'm warning you. If you don't proof this stuff, you're going to end up with something like this situation or worse, a total hallucination. Freddie Starr ate a hamster, Yeah. I mean, sorry, for Americans, it's Ozzy Osbourne ate a bat or something like that. But I think Ozzy actually did eat a bat, but Freddie Starr said it was all just a stunt. But I don't know. I ask these things stuff all the time, but I'm still proofing it pretty careful. I don't trust their coding. I don't trust their script. And I'm just not ready yet to say, hey, Chatty, write the news script for me to read while I sober up. I mean, so be careful. Proofread your work, verify your work, It's really easy to make mistakes. It's even easier to look like a real putz or lose your job for turning in a hallucinated court case. We've seen that. So seriously, I can't believe this guy just stands there and reads a monitor and whatever's on the prompter, like he says it without even thinking. It's just like his brain is turned off and he reads a teleprompter. Now back to you in the studio, Marjorie. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that shouldn't have been there. But regardless, that is the news. Thanks, Josh. And I will see all of you next time on the Security Weekly News on the teleprompter. Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, head over to securityweekly.com/subscribe. You'll find all our shows, the latest episodes, and everything happening across the Security Weekly network. See you next time.